In the grim darkness of the far future, where gods cosplay as humans, superhuman dudes with daddy issues destroy empires, and aliens literally melt minds with their thoughts, being an average Joe sucks. Now, imagine being a woman in this dumpster fire of a galaxy. But GW doesn't discriminate and promotes equality, and that means equal suffering to both genders. That being said, there is a surprising number of women in the 40K universe that have the balls to stand up to tyrants, chaos gods, and Xenos. So, in honor of No Nut November, I'm going to test everyone's willpower here. We'll be going through who I think are the most badass and powerful ladies in the galaxy. First up, we have Erda, Big E's first baby mama, and the only person that could ghost the Emperor and get away with it. Erda was known as the second most powerful perpetual, right after the big guy himself. In case you're new to the lore, perpetuals are basically mutants with the ultimate life hack, immortality. They're practically unkillable, with ridiculous healing abilities. For example, the Primarch known as Vulcan got nuked to literal ash, and still pieced himself back together. Now, Erda might not be able to pull off the full ashes to anatomy trick like Vulcan, but she's still wildly OP. She's one of those rare people in the galaxy who could give the Emperor a run for his money and his heart. Like most perpetuals, Erda's origin story is unknown, even to herself. These ancient immortals have been around since humanity's dawn, slipping in and out of history, claiming new names and leadership roles as they pleased. Somewhere along the line, Big E slides into her DMs and recruits her into his harem of immortals meant to steer humanity's future. Despite the Emperor's bold and galaxy-breaking schemes, which managed to tick off nearly every other perpetual, Erda stood by him. She was his most loyal ride-or-die side piece, literally. When the Unification Wars of Terra started, Erda went from side piece to Nobel Prize scientist, lending her talents as a geneticist to the Emperor's latest pet project, which was the creation of the Primarchs. As the experiments escalated, Big E realized he needed a little something extra to pull this off, namely, Erda's incredibly rare DNA. So, he mixed his genes with Erda's and created the Primarchs. And just like that, Erda became the mother of 20 god-tier warriors, while Big E earned the title of Ultimate Baby Daddy. But, as in all great cosmic dramas, co-parenting proved to be a nightmare. See, as the Emperor prepped his Primarchs for the Great Crusade, he decided Erda was no longer needed in their lives. Her role was done, and he shut her out completely. Naturally, Erda was livid. She saw the grim fate the Emperor had planned for their sons, which was genocidal conquests across the stars. As a mother, she couldn't just sit back and watch her children become tools of endless war. In a desperate bid to save them, she conjured a warp vortex that yeeted the Primarchs across the galaxy. And then she vanished, like the last airbender. Big E was obviously pissed, but despite knowing exactly where Erda was hiding, he never sought revenge. Perhaps there was some sliver of affection for her after all those years together. Now, Erda wasn't just smart and immortal, she was also psychically gifted. During the Siege of Terra, she was visited by that bitch-ass Erebus, who offered her to join Chaos. When she refused, he summoned 4 greater demons. Erda blasted them with psychic energy and destroyed them. However, she was badly wounded in the process, and Erebus killed her with an Athame blade. That's why she takes 4th on this list, because fuck Erebus. Taking our 3rd spot is none other than Saint Celestine, the Emperor's personal greater demon, but don't call her that to her face unless you want a flaming sword through the chest. In the lineup of Big E's immortal harem, she's a mainstay. Given the title of Living Saint, she's a miraculous force of nature. Living Saints are rare, holy warriors with unbreakable faith and loyalty to the Emperor. Their loyalty is so hardcore that they often die in the service of the Emperor and are rewarded with resurrection, courtesy of Big E himself, or so the story goes. However, their holy power burns out as quickly as it appears. As such, they only appear in times of great need for the Imperium. When a living saint is resurrected, they're no longer just warriors, they're avatars of the Emperor's divine rage. Saint Celestine's mere presence makes her enemies want to flee for whatever tiny corner of the galaxy might offer shelter. Blessed with a slice of the Emperor's godlike power, she wields abilities that are nothing short of supernatural. Her combat prowess is boosted by holy fire that can incinerate foes in bursts of psychic wrath, making her look more like a demon than an angel. Wrapped in an aura of near invulnerability, she strides through the battlefield, shielded by the Emperor's blessing. Saint Celestine earns a middle spot here because she's literally a spawn of Big E's power, is immortal, and has badass wings. Like the Custodes, she definitely got too much love from Games Workshop and needs a lore nerf. In second place, we've got someone who's not part of Big E's harem. Instead, she and Guilliman are the ones mixing DNA. Meet Yvraine, an Eldar warrior, who are essentially space elves of 40k. The Eldar themselves are the galaxy's OG overlords, strong, fast, and packing psychic powers. Once upon a time, the Eldar were a powerhouse empire, ruling the galaxy like it was their personal playground. But then things took a dark turn. Let's just say they partied a little too hard, and their anything-goes lifestyle gave birth to an actual chaos god. This catastrophic slip-up blew their empire apart, and what was left of their once glorious civilization went full space divergent. After the big galactic breakup, the Eldar split into factions. Some formed fringe colonies to try and reclaim their former dignity, others went for some torture tourism, and a few just threw in the towel and became pirates living life one heist at a time. Yvraine, meanwhile, found her calling somewhere between these extremes, and she's now on a mission to resurrect her race's glory. Now, Yvraine's had a shitty life. She bounced from one dead-end gig to the next. She danced, dabbled in sorcery as a warlock, even took up arms as a warrior, but none of it stuck. Finally, she found her true calling as a pirate, cruising the stars looking for that booty. It was all good until some office politics made her resign. Out of a job and fresh out of options, she signed up for what basically amounted to food stamps in Kamara, the Dark Eldar's city. The only catch was she had to earn it by hacking her way through gladiator pits. One fateful day, she faced death in the arena, but was saved by a newly awakening god, Aeneid. From that point onward, Yvraine became an emissary of the Eldar god of death. Aeneid's ultimate purpose is to destroy Slaanesh, the chaos god who torments the Eldar. Problem is, most of the Eldar kin think the only way to fully wake Aeneid is for all of them to die first. But Yvraine said fuck that. She had other plans, like boinking the revived Guilliman. Instead of embracing inevitable sacrifice, she embarks on a journey to gather all the Dragon Balls and awaken Aeneid through a process called the Seventh Path. This method bypasses mass sacrifice by gathering all 5 crone swords. As a chosen champion of the Eldar god of death, she channels the raw, godlike force of life, death, and rebirth to perform some broken-ass miracles. Case in point, she once flexed her necromancy skills by resurrecting a squad of rubric marines just to show she could, then immediately sent them back to the afterlife. Oh, and let's not forget her crowning achievement when she revived her boy toy, the Primarch Guilliman. In combat, she's just as terrifying. With supersonic speed and a crone sword that literally disintegrates enemies on contact, she's a walking nightmare. One touch, and poof, your existence gets cancelled. Between her overpowered necromancy and insta-kill sword, Yvraine absolutely earns her spot as one of the galaxy's top-tier badasses. And finally on our list, we've got an actual god, Slaanesh, the not-safe-for-work chaos deity. Now, whether Slaanesh counts as a woman is complicated. Being a chaos god, it shifts between male, female, both, and sometimes none of the above. For the sake of memes, let's just call it a she. Slaanesh is the baby of the Chaos family. Born from the Eldar's big oopsie, she embodies lust, greed, excess, pain, pleasure, and perfection. Or, as we call it, a ditty party. As for power, she's literally cracked. Immortal, untouchable, and armed with orgy energy. Slaanesh didn't just make a statement at her debut, she made a whole apocalyptic mixtape. Her birth annihilated most of the Eldar race, killed their gods, and gave the galaxy the Eye of Terror. Slaanesh was so OP at launch that the other Chaos gods had to form a patch team just to nerf her. Imagine being that broken. To really ice this hedonistic cake, Slaanesh couldn't care less about the great game. While the other Chaos gods are busy playing Risk, Slaanesh has orgy parties to attend to. That said, she's got some beef with Khorne, whose belief in death and pain is completely opposite to Slaanesh's principle of unrestricted pleasure. The rest of the family are also keeping a close eye on the Dark Prince. Why? It's because Slaanesh feeds off their collective excess. Khorne's bloodlust, delicious. Tzeentch's galaxy brain scheming, chef's kiss, Nurgle's plague aesthetic, weird flex, but she'll take it. All that pleasure fuels her powers and existence, and each of her siblings harbors that creeping suspicion that it could end them. And that, friends, is why Slaanesh is firmly parked at number 1. The power ceiling is stratospheric, and the threat level could affect the existence of the entire galaxy and other gods. Our honorable mention goes to female Custodes. Traditionally, they're the Emperor's ultimate golden man-bun warriors, but due to woke culture, Games Workshop spiced things up, so Lady Custodes are now canon. If these Custodes match the muscle and mythic skill of their male counterparts, they've more than earned their place as Big E's elite guard. Picture a 7-foot, golden-armored badass smashing anything that dares threaten Daddy. Fun fact, in the wild rogue trader days, they used to guard the Emperor topless. Imagine that now with women Custodes. Malcador might have to start an OnlyFans. These ladies are bigger, faster, and stronger than Space Marines, with a built-in anti-chaos firewall. Thanks to Big E's divine spark, they're immune to the whispers of the ruinous powers. Guns jam, blades miss, and psychic attacks flop in their presence. Literal divine plot armor. For scale, a Custodes once dropped 6 Deathwing Marines in 6 seconds without breaking a sweat. Gender was unknown, but if it was one of the ladies, let's just say she handled that kitchen knife training to perfection. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. If there's any specific 40K lore, topics, or conversations you'd like me to discuss, please feel free to drop a comment below.